Hey there, small business rock stars. Welcome to Small Business Saturdays. If you joined us live for the Business by Design, the how to create a business plan that you will actually use, first and foremost, just want to congratulate you guys. Hopefully, that opportunity to work on your business has really started getting the creative juices flowing for you, and you're seeing some actions that you can take going forward. And hopefully starting to see that framework for your business plan that you can actually use. So today we are going to show you guys how to take action that counts. We want your actions to move your business forward. And so we want to use this momentum and get things really cranked up for you.
Yes, your favorite thing. Well, I'm Kylene. Aaron is my husband. I think you all know that. But we're here to bring you practical, real world strategies that's going to help you take your business to that next level. And like Aaron said, we're going to talk about action that counts to really help you move your business forward.
Awesome. Yeah. And before we dive into today's topic, we do want to make this very interactive. So go ahead and comment below with where you're tuning in from and what you are celebrating in your business. We've got Chuck checking in. Good afternoon, Chuck. Good to see you. Hopefully, things are going really well. What are you celebrating in your business? And then we've got Barb here. Hello, everyone. Craig out on the Cape doing a little camping, I saw. So,
Cool.
appreciate you jumping in real quick just to say hi, and good afternoon, Sade, excuse me. Appreciate you guys jumping in here. So yes, this is live today. So sometimes we do have a recorded session, but today is not one of those things. And then I guess last thing I can share, Kylene, is as the kids would say, smash that like button, hit subscribe, share this with a fellow business owner as well, please.
Yes. So, like we said, our focus is really truly to support you and staying true to what you value most and just getting that clarity on your business. It will just make a huge difference. So, grab your notebook and then stay engaged with us. And remember, we do want to hear from you. We do want this to be interactive. So, drop your questions if you have them, any aha moments. We're all going to learn together and grow together. So,
Absolutely. And Sade is celebrating with another happy year. Love it, love it, love it. All right, cool. Well, let's get into this, Kylene. Are you ready?
Yep, I'm ready.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. The power is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right. Well, let's talk some business here, Kylene. Speaking of business, fundamentals of business success, we are following the same kind of format. We have the plant, we have the prepare, and we have the pollinate phase. So we kind of break up Small Business Saturdays in a similar format. So we're starting off with the plant section here. And I guess the first thing is I want to make sure I'm not the only one. Do you ever have those days where you feel extremely busy, but then you end the day and you don't feel like you were productive at all? Is that, am I the only one that feels that way, or has anybody else felt that way?
I think I feel like that a lot.
Do you? Okay. All right. Well, then
Yeah.
maybe you need to break out your notebook there. But
Yep. That's why I love doing this because I'm always learning. So.
yep, absolutely. Because there's a difference between productive and busy. Right? And we can easily fill our days, fill our moments, fill our extra time, fill our free time with busy. Um, and that just is the spinning of the wheels, right? It feels like motion, but there's no progress. There's no moving forward. And so I think for me, recognizing the difference between those two has been really impactful, because when I'm busy, I'm exhausted. But when I'm productive, when I'm celebrating, when I feel like there's progress happening, I can see the actual progress. And it doesn't always have to be forward progress either. So I don't want you guys to think like, oh man, every time I hit a roadblock, that's a bad thing. That's just a learning opportunity, right? We gotta find the roadblocks in front of us so we know what adjustments to make on our course. And um, so I guess where we wanted to start with this, Kylene, is there is a little bit of danger. We just got through the business planning masterclass, right? And so we've been thinking a lot more. So we're working on our business, right? We're thinking about the actual steps going forward, what things we need to update, change, progress, improve, put in place. Um, and that planning is really, really can, I don't know, for me, maybe it's just me, but you can have that really kind of high, like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I can't wait. Right. And you maybe even have a little feeling of accomplishment. Um, but then there's this stall, right? Like, because we say, what's next? Right. So what happens for you in those moments, Kylene?
It's usually fear or uncertainty. So it's not laziness. So, it's just understanding there's that gap. Where you're headed, you have that clarity, but then you're going into action, and then you pause for a moment because you're not sure what's going to happen, right? It's
Yeah.
that fear of the unknown, or fear of failure might show up. You name it, any kind of fear might show up in that moment, and that's usually what's happening after you are all excited and you have this great plan. That's usually what happens. So, having that insight, having that awareness of this is really important, because that's that first step actually into action.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So let's ask this before we start thinking about the mindset shift here. For those of you that are tuned in live right now, or maybe you're listening in the comments, and you could post it in there in the comments later. But I mean, we could say goal, but I think what's a project maybe that you've been sitting on that you're like, okay, I feel like this is going to get me to move forward, but you've been sitting on it, right? That goal, that idea, because you're just not sure where to start. You're kind of waiting for somebody to tell you what to do. And as business owners, there there is nobody to tell you what to do, right? I mean, we can get inspiration from others, but if you're following somebody else's blueprint, then the likelihood of success becomes much, much lower. So, question for you guys, and good morning, Mo. Thank you for being here, and afternoon for those folks on. Yeah, I guess we just clicked into afternoon here about 10 minutes ago for us, and I know Mo's over on the West Coast. So, but so what's that action? What's that goal that you've been sitting on because you're not sure where to start? And completely judgment-free zone here. And I don't share that idea of a judgment-free zone because I'm worried about the other people that are following Small Business Saturdays. You know, I know most of the people in the comments right now, and I'm not worried about them judging you. I'm not going to judge you. Kylene's not going to judge you. I say judgment-free zone because I don't want you to judge yourself. Like, oh, I didn't do that. Why am I stuck, right? Like, the reality is you're stuck. So worrying about why you're stuck, getting to the root of it is important, but beating yourself up because you're stuck, judging yourself because you're stuck, is actually going to keep you more stuck. Right? Yeah. So, and Kylene, is there anything that's sitting there for you that, something you've been sitting on and you're just maybe not sure where to start?
A little bit, yeah. So, just as you guys know, I teach yoga, and that's something I want to do more of. But I'm stuck in that I'm not putting myself out there enough. Aaron loves to tease me and say it's super secret. And what we just talked about here, you have a plan and all of this, and I'm excited, and then I go to get going, and then that fear kind of shows up. And so, that's something for me that I've been kind of stuck on. And then I do come back to my favorite quote, which is everything you want is on the other side of fear, by Jack Canfield. Mm-hmm. And so, recognizing that fear is there and say, okay, I'm there. Am I really in danger?
Yeah.
And what am I imagining happening? And then, trying to use that to get to that next step.
I'm curious, again, just not picking on Kylene here, but so we can all kind of be inspired by the example here.
Mhm.
it, when you say, you kind of run into that fear, have you taken the time? See, we go and plan, we think about all the future stuff, we look at all that other stuff, but we don't always get to the root, right? And so have you had the opportunity to really sit with that fear for a moment and find out where that's rooted in, and then maybe using the Sedona method or something like that,
Mhm.
difficult and troubling situation, right? Like, we've got all these tools. So again, if you guys are stuck, just reach out to us. We've got all
Yep.
sorts of tools that we can work together on. In fact, that's the part that I love about Kylene is she's so authentic, and like, she can work people through these tools, and but I don't know if she's always supported enough, right? So my my helping her sometimes is teasing. So maybe that's part of the problem too. I don't know, right? Like, we can get to all of these things, but
I mean,
curious. So
if I think about, when I've, done the reflection on what's maybe keeping me stuck, it's that fear of not knowing enough. Because there's that comparison. The comparison is the thief of joy, right?
yep,
I'll be honest. That is something that does keep me. It kept me from even starting to teach yoga, and I got through that, which was awesome. And now I
yeah,
need to keep building, and now it's showing up again. And so,
yeah, yeah.
uh, just being all honest and vulnerable here. That's probably what I've kind of come to is what's making me stay in this place.
Gotcha. Love it. Love
Yeah.
it. Well, I think Barb's question is really valid. And what I love about Barb's question is this isn't just for Kylene, right?
Yep.
Like, we all need to probably ask ourselves this. Would you call it fear or procrastination? And you know, two things show up for me with that, right? Like, is the procrastination caused by the fear, or is the procrastination caused by the comfort zone, or the procrastination caused by not having a strong enough, deep enough connection with where you're headed, right? Like, you don't believe it's possible yet, right? And so, there's plenty of little techniques we can use along the way there, Kylie. I'm happy to talk about some of them if you want, but what are your thoughts there?
I mean, I think procrastination is a result of the fear that's showing up. That's definitely true. And sometimes when you recognize it, like I said, that's the first step that you can take. And so, recognizing it and then going into what's the next easiest thing that you can do. Um, the next smallest step. Like, I remember way back when this was really debilitating almost for me in growing my business. You made a big heart, and then inside the heart you wrote do. So you're like, it doesn't matter if it's even the wrong step, just do something to get that momentum going.
Yeah, yeah. But it was, I appreciate that you shared about the heart, because it was crucial that the do comes from in here, right? Not
Yep.
the busy. So
Yep.
it totally leans into what we're talking about here, this whole idea of productive versus busy. So
Mhm.
um, appreciate that. So you guys, seriously, if you are out there, you want to talk through some things, we can certainly do that. Like I said, there's plenty of techniques. Kylene's it is exactly where I would have had to, what's the next best thing you can do? And then just make that the goal. Stop focusing on, right? Like, we want to set big goals. And I think this is the hardest thing. This was at least one of the hardest things for me to shift my mindset on, is I want to set big goals. I want to dream big, and I want to use that as a magnet, right? So I want to put that out there. I have my goals listed to different places, but as soon as I do that, as soon as I feel connected and inspired by that, I need to let go of it. I need to let go of that grip on it, and then be focused on what the process is, right? What's that next small thing I could do, right? So in your case, right, your big big goal is to really be teaching yoga kind of as a profession,
Mm-hmm.
right, or something along those
Yeah.
lines, right? And um, based on where you're at right now, like, it's hard to see that possibility, because of the other things in your life, and whatever, right? There's all sorts of reasons, and they're all valid. But what's the next best thing, right? So yesterday you took a step, right? You had a conversation with somebody. Okay, great. That's the next best thing. Now, what you've got to do is use those next steps as launch pads, not campsites. I talked about that in another program I did with my wreath maker friends. And sometimes we go, okay, cool, I did the thing, and then we just camp there and expect something else to change. But we need to say, okay, that's a launch pad. Cool, I did that. I'm proud of myself. Yay, right? And then I feel inspired. Let me find the next step. Because when we wait and we just wait for the next step to come to us, right, that's where we lose our momentum, and now we have to regenerate all this momentum again. And so feel inspired by every step is really what the mindset shift is.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I like that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's move into the strategy portion. This would be
Yeah.
kind of prepare when it comes to the fundamentals of business success book here. Sorry, getting in the screen there. And I would say, Kylene, in my brain, again, kind of the idea here is you've worked on your business. How do we get into action, and how do we make that action count?
Yeah.
Because I kind of said it at the maybe it was in a blog post. Sorry, I'm doing things in all sorts of different places, so I'm having a hard time remembering where I said some of these things. So I'm like, oh, wait, maybe some of the folks here didn't even see or hear this. So we talked about the fact that, okay, now you've got a plan. What do you do with it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, the obvious answer is take action, but there's more to it, right? And so I think what we're talking about here when we are in this strategy phase is kind of that bridge between your plan and then daily productive action. So if you were somebody that attended the Business by Design Masterclass, you might have walked away from that thinking, awesome, I'm inspired, I got information, I kind of have a framework, but how do I actually do this? Right? So Kylene, as you were going through it, as you were working through the workbook, what do you think a next step would be that other people could use?
Well, I would go to the workshop that follows up.
Sure,
next.
sure.
But
let's just say, okay, workshop's not coming up until the end of the month. We just talked about wanting to keep that momentum rolling, right? We just talked about number one being the bridge. What's number two?
It would definitely be revisiting your why. Going back to that reason statement you spent the time doing, and because then you actually know when you reconnect with that why, you have that sense of excitement and fulfillment, and that is what's moving you forward. So go back to that as often as you can, and then if you know why something matters, then it's easier to commit doing it because you see the long-term benefit of it and you see the connection point. Otherwise, if you don't see that, it's really hard to get moving in that direction to get that task done if you don't have that connection point to your why.
Yeah. And interesting, right? Like, because of all the stuff we've been doing around the Business by Design Masterclass, talking a lot to people about their reason, several other programs that I've been doing lately has that reason as a key component of, so we've talked about the reason as a tool to overcome burnout. We've talked about the reason as a reason to, or an opportunity to reset and reignite your passions, right? In the masterclass, we talked about the reason being the foundation for our business plan. So the cool part for me is that's made me really think a lot about my own reason, right? I've said it probably 100 times in the last 2 weeks, cultivating an uncommon mindset in proactive small business owners by equipping them with fundamentals to build fulfilling, goal-achieving businesses. Yep. And when I say that, I just feel this sense of passion and pride. And again, I take that to just the core bit of it. I want people to fall deeper in love with what they get to do. I want to be the conduit, the inspiration for people falling deeper in love with what they get to do.
Yeah.
And going back to that, right, that hopefully for you guys will inspire action. Like for me, we talked about last time, what's a goal you've been sitting on because you're not sure where to start. And I've got a lot of cool things happening right now, but I know there's something bigger. I know there's something that I'm being called to do, and I just haven't quite figured out exactly how to make it work yet. And I've kind of been sitting on it. I've kind of been using lots of excuses and justifications and waiting for things and whatnot. But the reality is, the more I've gone back to the why, the more I'm inspired to just go, you know what? Knock it off, Aaron. Let's go. Let's
Yep.
do this, as Kylene would say.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to have a business by design, a business builder mastermind program that works like our existing mastermind programs, but really gives us an opportunity to go step by step. So it's like kind of a program plus mastermind. And for those proactive business owners that want to have that goal achieving, fulfilling business and are willing to be proactive and are willing to, show up for themselves, it will be the perfect fit for them. Right.
Yeah.
So, but that all came back, right? Like you and I have been talking about this for a while, but I stalled out, right? And I was having all sorts of different justifications that I was putting in my head, right? Putting a lot of on you, unfortunately, right? So, revisiting your why, right?
Yeah. If I can add to that, I think,
please.
Going before having the workbook from Business by Design this week, I have my why in front of me, and that's great. But the workbook actually got me back, really connected to it. And so I'm so grateful that I had it this week before I had that meeting yesterday, because I was just so much more connected to where I'm headed instead of just kind of grasping at opportunities that might not make sense long term. So it's really powerful to come back to that reason.
Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of the step, right? But as we talked about already, we don't want to lose momentum, right? Once you have momentum, the best thing to do is just keep it going. And so when you start getting into some practical things that we can do in the prepare phase here to get this actions to be productive, is in the Business by Design program, we talked about 5 areas. And these aren't everything that you need to have in your business plan, but I think if you focused on those 5 areas, you will have so much more clarity. You will have an opportunity to really build a business that works for you, not a business that takes all of your time and resources and money, right? Like if you're getting paid less than if you could go to a minimum wage job with your small business, it's time for a real true gut check, right? And if that's okay, if you're okay with that, right, you got the resources to do that, great. But don't keep struggling at it just thinking that it's going to change by struggling more, right? You need to slow down to speed up. We need to go back and identify some areas. So in those 5 areas, right, think about what we talked about in the Business by Design Masterclass and say, what's an area where I definitely feel disconnected, right? And maybe start there. So 1, 2, 3 needle movers, right? So, maybe for you, it is really kind of trying to identify your ideal customer and spending a little extra time focused on that. We had some different exercises that we talked about in there. I think really just answering the question, and here's the other part. There's no wrong answer to the answer for this question. So whatever your answer is, one of the things we did in the masterclass is we threw a ton of information at you really quickly. And that was by design, because I didn't want people to overthink it. I wanted you to at least have that gut, oh my gosh, I don't have any time to think through this. Let me just write down what shows up right here, right now. And so which action is going to create the biggest progress towards your main goal? Whatever your gut's telling you, try it. Right? Like you can't go, oh, you know what, Aaron, let me get back to you. I'm going to think about that for, give me a couple months. I really want to get deep on that question. Okay, great. And I will tell you what you originally thought when I asked that question, what action will create the biggest progress towards your main goal? That's what's really going to move you forward. Right? When we get up here, it's not going to happen. We're not going to have goal achieving, fulfilling businesses. It's got to come from here. Yep. And that's instantaneous. So,
yep.
Then what do you do, Kylene?
So then we go back to kind of what we mentioned a little bit earlier, but break that big task that you want to do and just break it down into small steps. What's the first thing you can do right now? Okay, you do that. you survived it. Maybe it didn't go quite as well. You learn from it. You go back and you try something different, and you just keep taking that next step.
Yeah.
So just really break them down, so you actually are achieving it. Because otherwise, if you're only looking at the end goal, you're missing the whole. You're missing the whole journey. So.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. And then we need to go from, okay, right? Like, oh, here's the thing. I write it down on a sticky note, or, I wrote it down on my whiteboard desk here, or maybe I've got a folder that I carry with me, or maybe I even put it into my to-do list that's electronic on my phone, right? Whatever that is for you, that's a great first step. But the real step that's going to get you there is put it on your calendar. Okay. Right. And then maybe even go so far as to make it a recurring task on your calendar that I'm going to take this type of action once a week for 30 minutes, for 10 minutes. Right. And we'll talk about kind of breaking that down here in a little bit. But your business, if your business is important to you, you're committed to it, you want it to be successful, then make it a priority. Show yourself, show others that it's a priority. I've had people tell me that, sometimes my significant other doesn't support me or doesn't think my business is real, or sometimes, my family, thinks I've got this little play business, and I'm like, okay, I get it, right? Like, that's not a great look for them. But the reality is you're the only one that can control anything that happens, right? So what are you going to do to prove to them that it is important to you, that it's not a little plaything, that it does require some of your time, and they're gonna have to share a little bit with your business because you want it to become what it can become, right? And sorry, I've got an appointment. Maybe you just don't tell them that it's with yourself. Maybe you do just say, yeah, hey, you know what, guys, I've got this 30-minute appointment. It's a really important appointment. I'm gonna, you just go to the coffee shop and you sit down with yourself, right? Yeah. So prove to yourself and to others that it's important by making it a calendar appointment, right? Like, Kylene, we go over our calendar once a week, right? And it's like, oh, well, I've got this thing going on. Like, we could look at all these things and go, is that really that important? And okay, we could maybe every once in a while we'll move something, or it just doesn't work out, or we have to. But the reality is, once it gets on our calendar, that feels a little bit more concrete.
Yep.
Right. And then the last bit here before we get into the actual taking of action here, the growth side and the productive actions, is once you've got that on your calendar, really kind of give yourself those guardrails, right? We talked about busyness versus productivity. One of the best ways to create busyness is to not have a guardrail, is to just, I don't know what I'm going to do today. I'm going to try to get some stuff done, though. I know I've got a lot of things on my to-do list. I'm not sure which is important. So I'm just going to dive in and go. And then spin, right? Like, we use a tool that we call the Fundamental 5 in our Success Group community. Just what are the 5 most important projects, and not big, huge projects, but like, what are the 5 most important tasks I can do today?
Yep.
And I put those on a list of what we call the Fundamental 5. And those become like, okay, before I go to bed tonight, I'm going to do everything humanly possible to accomplish those things, to check them off the list.
Yep.
And what that does is, when in doubt, right, when our energy's low, when maybe our blood sugar's a little bit low, or we need a nap or something like that, let's get the most important things done. And then there's plenty of time for the nap, the watching television, the scrolling social media. Mm-hmm. It's when we allow those things to become first, then that signifies to our subconscious that that's the priority.
Yeah.
So speak to that a little bit, Kylene.
Oh, I mean, so I've definitely been off track lately, and I'm slowly getting back there, but having those 5 things is really important. And like Aaron said, it's definitely, it doesn't have to be huge things. It could just be following up with a customer.
Yeah.
Maybe it's interacting with someone on social media.
Yeah.
Maybe it's designing something, whatever it might be for you, that if you do this, you're building some kind of progress towards that end goal.
Yeah.
Um, it feels so good because you're constantly engaged in your dreams and your reason.
Yeah.
When you have that, for me, when that fear shows up, then those other things, like you were saying, become the priority sometimes. Oh, I need to have this downtime. I need to recharge. Yes, you do, but could you take 5 minutes and reach out to that customer since you know how important it is to you? Yes, you could. So it's really making that choice to get the outcomes that you want.
Yeah. I love it. Love it. Very well said, Kylene. Thank you. All right. So you guys that are tuned in live right now, where are you at, right? What are you stuck on? What is this good information for you? What are you going to put in progress so far? What are you hearing? Where do you disagree? I just want you to interact here, you guys. So jump in there, jump in the comments. But let's talk pollinate here, Kylene, the kind of action growth, right? Making that progress and then really making it stick, right? With some of the things you were just talking about. And some people focus more than others, right? I think you guys have learned enough about me that anybody that's been watching us regularly, that focus can be a challenge for me. Kylene, I don't think you would consider that your strong suit either, but maybe more than me. I don't know.
It takes a long time for me to get into the state of focus.
Okay.
It can. Yeah.
Yeah. And this is human nature though, right? Like we have these peripherals that were actually designed to be very aware of. And because in a survival situation, having tunnel vision is very dangerous because you don't see where the dangers are coming from.
Mm-hmm.
So having a little bit of that squirrel, as I like to call it, or shiny object syndrome, that is an ingrained human situation that is actually good for us that we don't want to get rid of, but we need to know how to control it, how to tame it. And one of the best ways to tame it is to do it in small chunks, right? Anything that we practice becomes easier. Right? Like I was one of those people that said, I can't meditate, right? And that was my excuse. And I wouldn't say I'm good at it. My thoughts come and go really fast and I do follow them along. But the more I practice, the better I get. The more I am able to just slow down. The most important thing for me to not chase every thought around is I started thinking about it as just random traffic. Like if I'm sitting on the side of the road and all these cars are going by like this, I don't watch every single car. I can just let them go. Wonder where that person's going. I don't know. Next, right? And so that's been useful for me. I'm sure other people have other, I don't know what that is for you, Kylene. Other people have other things that work for them. Mm-hmm. So my point being is I realize that I've got tiny little bursts of deep focus. Yeah. And so I've had to set up some things for myself where, okay, go. Once I get into that, try to shut everything else out, get that tunnel vision because I'm in a safe space. I'm sitting in my office or I'm somewhere safe. And so I don't have to pay attention to everything. Maybe it's like being in a coffee shop, just all the other noise going and just let it go, right? And so maybe turning on some background music, some white noise, right? Like for me, music that has, singing type music is actually very difficult because then I end up focusing on what they're saying, right? So I need music that's just the sound. So, just start small is I guess what I'm trying to say here, Kylene. Yep. Any other thoughts on that one before we get to the next one on the list here?
If you're starting small and little chunks of time, you may find that, you might actually keep going once you've, put these things in place to get yourself in that focus state.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah, because I've had many times where I've said, okay, 10 minutes of focus time. I'm going to get in that zone. I'm going to get that tunnel vision on. and then I look up and it's an hour later, right? So you have to be aware of that. It can definitely get, and that could be a very good thing. But if I had another appointment, I've missed several appointments that way, or at least showed up late.
Yeah.
Oh, shoot, I got to get to this appointment. Bam. Okay, so what's next, Kylie?
Yeah. The other thing that's really important is tracking your progress. At the end of each week, maybe the end of each day, whatever it looks like for you, you know, just reflect on what actually moved you forward and closer to that goal, and realize how much you did do that week. You might not be at that end goal, but at least you're tracking your progress and you're seeing yourself kind of slowly going forward. That's going to keep you that momentum up and actually make it work for you if you realize, with tracking, reflecting, and all of that. But it's also making you aware of what Aaron just said, that the busyness that happens, what could you be aware of so you can kind of be more intentional next week, letting some of that stuff go.
Yeah.
So you're learning, I guess, as part of tracking progress.
Yeah, I love that. Oh, that's great. I love what you just said there, that you're learning. Yeah, I want to make it really clear to people, right? Like, we're all different. I'm definitely a bit of a, I don't know what you would call it, Kylene. I workaholic, I guess, would be a term, right? And so I think sometimes some of the things I say, people might take that as like, oh my gosh, whatever I'm doing is bad or negative, or I know I kind of tease you sometimes a little bit about the naps and things like that, but it's progress for you, right? It's important. It helps you get the energy that you need, and I understand that. All I'm trying to indicate is, as long as you're intentional with it, right? Like, again, I scroll social media just as much, maybe more than other folks. I find myself a lot, I've had to do different things to better do that. I don't have any notifications for any social media on my phone, for sure. And then when I do get it open on my computer, I got to make sure that I remember, so I'll set a timer or things like that, right? So all of this stuff, the things that are just noise, don't worry about labeling it. It doesn't matter. The only label you need is, did this move me forward or did it not? And how can I change it if not? Like, so it's not, again, I think if we get the order switched and we focus on what we need to get done and move us forward and start taking those productive actions, then you'll have plenty of time for the not, quote unquote, non-productive actions, because they're actually very productive, right? You need that recharge. You need to just do some mind-numbing stuff every once in a while. There's so much input coming at us that we need that mind-numbing opportunity from time to time. Take a nap, sleep. Could you make it more useful for you? Maybe it is a walk or exercise. And I'm talking to myself right now, right? So instead of sitting on the couch watching some silly show about Missouri mudders like I did last night, could I have maybe just stretched or gone to bed?
Yeah.
So anyhow, okay. The next part here, Kylene, kind of as I was thinking about this and as you kind of put this together for us here, it made me think of a while back. I mean, this was probably 3-4 years ago when we were really starting to get our success group to where it's at. We were actually starting to talk about what the fundamentals of business success book was going to be. And we came up with an analogy of kind of like what Einstein calls insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Mm-hmm. And the analogy that we came up with at the time, or I came up with, I guess, was, maybe your goal is to cut this big log in half, and you're going, okay, I'm going to do it every day. I'm going to, focus on it. I got it on my calendar, 30 minutes a day. I'm going to do it. And every day I go out there with a pencil and I hit the log and I beat on it. And for whatever reason, the log's not getting cut in half, but yet I still keep beating on it with the pencil. Right. Yeah. We need to understand the adjustments that we can make along the way. Right. So it's not that we should go, well, this pencil's not going to cut the log. My goal of cutting the log is just not attainable. I'm just going to give up. Mm-hmm. What if you put the pencil down and maybe let's try a spoon? Okay. maybe that gets a little bit further. Maybe I get a few more chunks out of it. But, what about this butter knife? Okay, interesting. That's getting even a little bit further. Oh, what about this saw that I have? Yeah, it's a little dull, and yeah, it could use a little sharpening, but let's give that a go. What if I took the first 5 minutes and I sharpened that saw a bit, and then I just used the rest of my time that I had committed to that with the saw? Now you start seeing some progress, and before you know it, you're through the log, right? So adjusting quickly is an important part of this process to really have productive action. It's not about abandoning your goal, it's about adjusting your approach. So I don't know if you want to speak to that real quick before you share the last point here.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely important. We that's where your comfort zone kind of comes into play. When you're staying with what you're familiar with, and you're kind of scared to try something new. If you're still getting those same outcomes, it's probably a good time to try something new, and then you're going to get there quicker once you adjust and learn.
And real quick before you move on, I wanted to share also, right? Like, one of the important things that we did throughout the process of the Business by Design was also try to get a better understanding of who we are, right? Like, part of our Reason program is what I call the SVPs, the strengths, values, and passions. And so understanding who you are also helps you make the right kinds of adjustments, right? Like, for me, I'm not very focused, and so I probably make too many adjustments. I need to be a little bit more persistent, right? Where Kylene's got this deep strength of being a little bit stubborn, having that stick-to-itiveness.
Called consistency.
Thank you.
Consistency in the wrong things. Sometimes.
It shows up for me as stubbornness, but understanding that about yourself, that's a good indicator for Kylene that she needs to be a little bit more intentional about the adjustments. Whereas for me, I need to be a little bit more intentional about not making too many adjustments. So we're both making adjustments. We're just doing it differently, but we're both going to be able to get to the same result, right? Like, I'd probably go from pencil to spoon to butter knife to saw to now I'm trying to create the fastest log cutter in the world. And I've tried 100 different things and I still haven't even really started going, right? Like, for Kylene, she's going to get to that saw point and start seeing that progress. And she's going to have that consistency to where she'll get through it faster than I do if I'm not more intentional about understanding my adjustments.
Yeah.
So, all right. What's the last bit here before we kind of close this up and encourage people?
Probably my favorite part is celebrating your wins, big or small. That acknowledgement of your hard work is huge. Every day you should celebrate your wins. Before you go to bed, you could write them down. Maybe in your mind, you just run through the day and celebrate. Because it might take you a bit to get to that end goal, but if you celebrate and know that you're making progress, kind of with the tracking the progress and learning from what's working and what's not working, this is where you're tracking your wins every day, and then use that as momentum, because otherwise we miss the whole journey. We miss the whole experience of growing your business. I mean, this is all part of it. It's not just to get to the end goal. You want to enjoy all of it. And so that's where celebrating is important.
Yeah. And you can even look at it, right? Like, you made an adjustment and you did see a little bit more progress, right? That's celebration worthy. And it can be whatever is right for you, right? Like, you can get the pom-poms and give yourself a little bit of that rah-rah action, right? Or you can just kind of take a moment and pat yourself on the back internally, or you can share it with a friend, right? Like, the MOS community, your group of ladies, you guys have your coffee talk that you guys do, you've put together yourselves. And I'm sure in those moments, right, you talk about, oh, well, I did this yesterday. And that's a celebration, right? Like, celebration looks different for everybody, but understanding that is an important part of the process will, like you said, keep that motivation alive. And that momentum, like I mentioned earlier, is probably the most crucial part in all of this, because there are going to be bad days. And if you don't have momentum going forward, it's going to be even harder to get out of that rut. Right? Like, think about it. If you just go and you park your car in a rut and then you try to like push it out of that rut, what how do we get ourselves unstuck from the snow or the mud, right? We shift back and forth. We're trying to build some momentum to where we can finally get enough momentum to get out of the rut.
Yep.
And even at times, some of those shifts are backwards. We got to get unstuck by going a little bit backwards, going back to the root cause, by understanding a little bit deeper about what this really means to me. Why am I really truly stuck here?
Yeah.
And so I guess give us some encouragement here, Kylene.
Okay, so it's just really important when you're in alignment with your reason and your action, with your strengths and your values. It all comes together, right? You're going to stop fighting yourself and start just flowing. You're going to start having that momentum, and it's actually going to be a realistic thing to get you into action that counts long term.
Yep.
When we're out of alignment and we're not connected to that, our strengths and our reason, that's when we kind of go backwards. So this is ways that you can really start just staying in alignment, connect, reflect back to your reason.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And as Chandler said, mud goes in your face. Every once in a while, you're going to get some mud in your face, but that can also be part of the fun, right? Who doesn't love to get a little dirty every once in a while? All right. It just happens. All right. Well, let me leave people with some key takeaways here, Kylene, and then we'll kind of close this up. It's been a great program today. The real key takeaway here, you guys, is that idea of momentum. Mm-hmm. When you have some clarity about where you're headed, who you are, what makes you tick, what the business that is going to work for you is, and then you start adding some small steps of action to that, you're going to create momentum. And the more momentum you have, the more it's going to feel effortless. Right? Yes, momentum requires some expenditure of energy, but the faster that flywheel gets going, the less energy you put into it, and the more of your time, the more of your life, everything flows freely, like you just said, Kylene.
Yeah.
So that's number one. And number two is, when in doubt, understand that productive action will always be aligned with your big picture goals and your why, or your reason. Okay? If it feels out of alignment, you go back to that thing that we talked about with our gut instinct being right, because it is. If it feels out of alignment, try something else. Right? Doesn't mean to go just give up, like I said, right? You don't go, oh, I'm not going to reach the goal, so I'm going to give up. Just means try something else. Grab the spoon, grab the saw, sharpen the saw. And then lastly, do not wait to feel ready. Being a business owner, as you said, Kylene, everything we want is on the other side of fear. And we are never ready to face our fears, right? There's no like building up to it and then all of a sudden it just melts away. The only way to face our fears is to take an action. My friend Eric Campbell likes to say, you can't steer a parked car. And so you're only going to be able to understand where you're heading, get back on track, if you've taken some action forward. That action is actually going to create the readiness. All right. So my call to action for you guys is, if you've been sitting on a plan or don't have one yet, regardless of wherever you're at, action is the most important thing that you can do in your business. So if you did join us for the Business by Design Masterclass, this is your moment. This is your call to action, to take action on what you built, what showed up for you. And if you're somebody that missed the Business by Design Masterclass, don't worry. You guys can definitely still grab the replay. And I will put in the chat here the link to it. So if you go to oursuccessgroup.com/business plan, you can sign up to watch the replay there. And if you use the code SBS, you can get that masterclass for free. And workshops are still coming up. So there's still time to join the workshop. So let me just describe those really quick for folks, Kylene.
Yep.
The whole idea here is, we wanted to give people a framework, kind of the idea, some inspiration, some actions they can take, some kind of homework, so to speak. And you've got everything that you need. That you want to just go do it yourself, I think you can do it, right? It's going to require your own accountability. It's going to require you reaching out, asking for help, that kind of thing. And I know that that's a challenge for a lot of folks. So we built the workshop as okay, now how do we implement this together with some help, with some accountability, with that type of support that a small business owner might need. And so the workshop's going to be an opportunity for us to get together. We schedule about 3 hours worth of time, and I believe we can get way far. A business plan is a working, breathing, evolving thing. And so the time that you invest in that 3 hours of working on your business will pay massive dividends, and you will really have a living, breathing, working business plan. And not only are you going to get that support and you're going to actually, invest in that 3 hours of time for yourself, but you're also going to get other perspectives, different ideas. We're going to do a future you party at the end. And 30 days after the workshop, anybody that wants to sit down with a one-on-one with me and go over their business plan, happy to do it, right? Take advantage of my superpowers of kind of this broader perspective that I can bring to the table at times, and do that. And once you've invested in that, people know that the folks that have invested in themselves through our success group, I try to double, triple, quadruple that return on their investment. And basically, I'm yours. You tell me what you need. Okay. So, and honestly, you use that code SBS, it's only $30. So it's not a big investment, you guys.
Awesome. Wow. Very generous. Okay. So, all right, small business rock stars, it's time to put what you learned into action here. And so remember, there's no better time to start than now. So if you haven't signed up for that workshop, please do so. And if you're ready for more support, just join us in our Facebook group at osg.link/group. It's full of amazing people, all there supporting each other, and it just really will help keep that momentum going forward for you.
Absolutely. All right. Don't forget, a rising tide does lift all boats, and we appreciate you. We're really grateful to have you here with us every Saturday at noon and showing up for yourself and your business. Huge thanks to everybody who tuned in. If you're somebody that's liked or shared this, double high five, something like that. You are part of this incredible community, and together we are building something very powerful. We are here to lift each other up every single week. And if you want to take that even a step further and want to work with me to understand your strengths, values, and passions a little bit more, another program that I do that everybody keeps telling me I need to charge for after we're done with it, but it's my God-given gift, so not mine to charge for. I'll ask you to give back. How about that? And then, so come check that out, osg.link/SVP. Sorry, I put in the wrong one. No, I did. I got the right one in there. Okay, there you go.
Okay, sounds good. And then just remember, lasting change does come from positive energy. So remember, gratitude is your superpower. Embrace it, and let's keep growing together. We'll see you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through.